Hey, this is Bryce, and thanks for tuning into my YouTube channel, Jacket Trades. Today is the first build day for the HPI Baja 5B Flux. We're going to see how far we can get today. I'm hoping we get through the front end of the car as well as maybe into the radio box, battery box. But we'll just see how it goes. As much as I'm looking forward to this build, I'm looking more forward to running this car. It's been almost a decade since I've run a Baja. And they're really fun to drive if you have the room for it. And with an 8S setup, this car should be pretty fast. So I'll go ahead and flip the camera around and we can get on to the build. Thanks for watching. Alright, so we're going to get right into it. First we need to sort through this bag. And I will speed this up in post. We got our top plate. Axles, bearings. One thing I didn't cover in the tools is that some other tools I like is some kind of a power drill, and then your bits for that. I wouldn't recommend using an impact driver. I've used impact drivers in the past for these cars, and if you keep using them, you end up stripping out the screws. So just a regular electric drill or electric driver is fine. Stay away from the impact drivers. Alright, so we're going to start with the bulkhead. So I like to use cutters that are flat on one side, or side cutters. That way you can get close, very close to the part without having little nibs sticking out. I'm already at a loss. That didn't take long. So we got that guy. Oh, that guy's this guy. That's not a very good picture of this part. This is what the part looks like, and that's how it's illustrated in the manual. So it's a weird isometric view. It's more obvious in the next step, but here, that's what that part is. So they tell you over here on the side, I haven't built an HPI kit in a very long time. So I don't remember how the manuals are, but we'll build it like a Tamiya kit or a Lego kit where you count your parts just to make sure you don't miss anything. So we're going to try to use that funky press tool that they gave us. Okay, we're done with step 2, and move on to step 3. Need screws. So the pictures are to scale on the side here, so you can use those when you're selecting your hardware. You get 3 pieces that sandwich together, and you run them in with this screw here. This is a hinge pin brace, upper hinge pin brace, and we're using a different size driver now. Use the 3mm driver. These are nice because they're sharp and they don't dull the bits out or the heads out, the sockets out, but sometimes they're hard to get into the socket, so I like these a little bit easier to work with. Alright, so I got those there, these off to the side. And we are done with step 3. Step 4. Alright, I'm going to start assembling. I have to make 2 of these. So this is 85414, number 4. This guy here. Okay. Nuts in. Easy enough. Okay, and then we're going to screw those. Make sure we're not there yet. Okay, and we put the body post onto the top chassis plate. body post. So that is on the roll cage parts tree. Make sure those numbers are correct. I'm trying to keep track of the numbers and make sure they are correct. Alright, that's good. So this is a pretty symmetric part, but you have countersinks. These holes are countersunk, so pay attention to that. You want those countersinks facing up. And this body post comes in from the top, like that. Body clip to hold it in place. And there. I don't remember this being a body clip, but again, my memory is not what it used to be. So, oh, I'm missing this washer too. I was wondering if I was using the right size body clip, but I don't see any other body clips. And that looks to scale. So these nuts are nylock nuts, so the screws will not come loose, which is nice. Anything doesn't have nylock though, and you're going into metal, you want to use a thread lock on. And we get the front chuck tower. This is actually, Total Racing makes a really good upgrade for this front shock tower. I used to, almost all my Bajas had Total Racing shock towers on them. For now, we'll just put the stock one on and look into getting a Total Racing, or maybe this is one of those parts where we make a carbon fiber version of the tower, just for, so we don't add a whole lot of weight and kind of get some of that bling factor out of it. And the carbon fiber is also stiffer than the plastic, so we could probably go with 4mm. See here, these are 9mm thick. We could maybe go with a 6mm carbon fiber, or even a 4, maybe. I don't know. I'll have to see what I have. I can probably order some 6. It's pretty. 6 is pretty thick. It's almost a 1/4 inch thick. Alright, so the shorter ones go on the bottom. Is that right? Yes. Shorter ones go on the bottom. This uses a 2.5mm, I guess. Yeah, 2.5mm driver. Be careful not to over tighten these, because you are going into soft plastic. So hand drivers are probably better. And you have to come in at a weird angle too, from behind. So we bring this guy into here, and these line up with those holes. And these come in from below. But these have a little boss on them. That boss goes in that hole there. In the front, it'll be, the hinge pins will come through here, so they all line up, all those holes line up for the hinge pins. Okay, that assembly is done. Well, for now. Now we get into the front arms. So I'm going to go ahead and use the RPM arms. I'm not even going to bother with the HPIs. I have some instructions which we'll conveniently ignore until we run into problems. So we got the upper arm, the lower shield, some spacers for setting your camber, I believe. Maybe not. Actually, these might be for the shocks. I don't know. We'll see. Got some screws for those little shields. Should have 4 of those screws. There it is. Okay. So, you get to use one of these fancy tools, which are very useful. The HPI includes with the kit. This is the ball press tool. So we need this to press these balls in. Basically, I'm trying to see if these are directional for the RPMs. Ooh, look at that. Ball press tool works with the RPM arms. A little tight. So that slips under there, and then you squeeze this in there. We got these slip jaw pliers. See if we can get that to go. Voila, we're in. It's a nice snug fit, which is good. Do the other one. Okay, got those installed. We got some stickers. Now we install the arms to the assembly. That guy, deviate a little bit. So we got two different lengths of hinge pins here. The longer ones are for the bottom, shorter ones are for the top. And again, even though their drawing is kind of to scale, it's a little bit off. We're showing shorter hinge pins here, but we don't really have a choice. It's not short enough to be the upper ones. So just install that like so. Actually, if you want, you can, this might be easier to install the E-clip on one end first. The other trick with E-clips is usually there's a sharp side and a kind of a rounded side, a dull side. You want to take the sharp side away from the part so that, in theory, that sharp side can hang up on the part and pop off. What's funny is these E-clips are big enough where you can just do them with your fingers. You don't even need pliers. Okay, just a little brace, hinge pin brace. You get the E-clip started and push down on the hinge pin, and that kind of pinches the E-clip, holds it in place while you get your pliers set to push it in. There, we got the lower arms on. Now we move to the upper rod ends. So we need two of these guys. And again, we're going to use our ball press tool on that. That is a nice tool. It works. Okay. Ball is done. Now we're going to install the rod ends to the upper arms. So there's these spacers that you use to go in here, and those spacers set the camber on the car. And you can see the little marks. There's little marks on that part as well to help you kind of indicate your camber. So out of the box, what do they recommend? The number 4, but they don't tell you what camber that gives you. So we'll just go with number 4. So they have a number 2 and a number 4. Actually, that's probably 4 millimeters, 2 millimeters. So let's go ahead and use the 4 millimeter one as prescribed. So spacer goes in, and then your rod end, and this is where your orange multi-tool comes into play, because you can use that to hold the rod end in place while you're screwing this in. And actually, depending on the caster, you might not want that straight. You kind of want it in line with the axis of the screw, and that depends on what your caster angle is set at. So we'll leave it close now, and we can adjust it later if we need to. Alright, put in the upper arms with our hinge pins. So the caster is also adjustable. It uses these plastic spacers here, and you can, depending on how you combine those spacers, it sets your caster. You can adjust these somewhat on the fly. They have these little rings here, so you can pull it out with a pick tool, and you can shift them around a little bit, so you can adjust your caster without having to take apart the whole front end. So with these, they're kind of angled up from the arm, and you want that angle to come up, not down. So this will go on like this. And we have a hinge pin plate here too. Okay, just making sure we do this right. Actually, with the RPM arms, I just realized or remembered, they are thicker than the Baja arms in that region. So you actually don't get to adjust caster with RPM. I suppose if you wanted to, you could grind away plastic, but I'll go ahead and cut this arm out and show you how the hinge portion is thicker, so you don't have the opportunity to play around with caster because they take up that extra space where those spacers would go with material for the arms to strengthen them. So that's the compromise if you go with the RPM arms, is you lose that ability to adjust caster. Good to go. Making good progress on this front end. Alright, onto the uprights. The press tool for the bearings is on this tree here. Okay, I have this extra bag here, or not extra, it's just a bag that we will open up. It has a nut in there that I can use probably. This guy here. I have a bearing on one side, goes in there. See, that bearing just kind of dropped right in, so this seems a little excessive, but why not? Let's use it. I guess it does seat the bearings square. Yeah, it gets, you can feel it kind of hit the limits, so that's not too bad. It works. The front axle. So this is an interesting update, I guess, in the design. I don't know if they did this for the re or if they did this when they started coming out with the different versions of Bajas. But it used to be these axles were held in with a large clip on an E-clip on the back side, and that E-clip, these were notorious for popping off because that E-clip just wouldn't hold very well. I think it actually ripped the aluminum out. These are aluminum. And the mod was that you could trim them off, drill and tap the backside, and use a flathead screw to hold the axle on. And it worked fine. The arms get really close in there, so you didn't have a lot of clearance for a screw. Like, you couldn't use a button head screw because it would rub on the arm. So you had to use a flathead, or I used to take button head screws and machine off the top of them to make them low profile buttons. So you take a button head screw and you machine off the top and you make it really low profile, and that worked fine as well. But now they have this, where is it? These guys, and these are aluminum as well. They feel like they're aluminum. Actually, they feel kind of heavy. They might be, oh no, those are steel. So these are steel. But these go on the back side there, and then you run a screw in from this side, and that keeps your axles in place without any hope for them to come off. Or you wouldn't hope for them to come off, but yeah. So let's move on to step 16, which is installing these axles. So we got 2 axles, 2 of these fancy nuts. They are tapped. and then the appropriate screws. I guess we're still in bag A on the hardware, which is this stuff here. So I haven't seen any indication of thread lock, but I would be inclined to use thread lock here, just because it's metal on metal, and I don't really trust lock washers for that, so at least not in a high vibration environment. So I would use my blue thread lock. So put a little bit on the screw threads. You don't need a whole lot. So to get this tight, you can use your, go back to your wheel wrench, because it has a through hole in it, and you can tighten it like this. There. Make sure you're fully seated with your, you know, if you hit those flats, then you're going to be, this is going to stick out like this, like that. So fully seat it, and then go ahead and put your screw in. Alright, so next we put in these little nut blocks. So that is on these trees. 85422, so the numbers are correct in the manual, and it's this one here, number 3. It's kind of funny, some of the legacy parts from the original Baja. So the original Baja had really weak dog bones, they were prone to breaking, and you had to assemble them. So they have these are the balls for the dog bones, and you put your pin, you push your pins through. Actually, you didn't have to assemble them because they were RTRs. So why did they have these? Maybe these are replacements, but these are the balls for the original dog bones, which are still in the tree, the parts tree. So interesting. Okay, and those slide in. There's a little key that sticks out, and you slide in like so. And that's for the screw for the upper rod end for the upper arm. On to step 18. So they have us installing the control arms, the steering control arms, because there's a left and a right at this point. You want these to be facing up and then towards the inside of the vehicle. So up and towards the inside of the vehicle. And these use these small M3 screws. They're small in the sense that they're skinny. I always felt these should have been thicker, like an M4, because they do tend to bend in a crash. One of the things I like about my drivers is they have the cap is on a Delrin bearing, so it pivots in the palm of your hand, so I can quickly turn it. Alright, there we go. Left and a right. Making progress. Alright, so now we install the upright to the arms. We got some screws here, short and long. The long one goes on the bottom, short one on the top. And then we have these spacers that go between the upright and the lower arm. Where? Here. Okay. I'm hunting for tools. Where are my side cutters? we got our spacers, we got our screws, we got our nuts. And then we will need our multi-tool for this because we have to get in there to hold these nuts in place. Alright, so the lower arm is biased towards the bottom. So what you can do is take your longer screw, insert it, then you insert it into the ball until it's not going to go anywhere. And then you come in and you insert your conical spacer with the narrow portion facing down towards the ball. And then you push that screw up and you're good. So that is what you want. And then you want to have nice motion without rubbing through that range. So then you can see the nut has to go in here. So actually we'll push that screw down, our finger, put the nut on the wrench to kind of hold it. Yeah, this is dealing with an octopus. Okay, and you push that up into there, and then we'll, I think that's a 4 millimeter maybe? Nope, 3 millimeter. Let's get started. We can come back with the driver if we need to, or the electric driver. But this is fine. Okay, so we got one and done. And then you come in from the top with the shorter screw. And make sure there's no spacers in there. No spacers, okay. Coming from the top. Pull the driver. But I've already screwed up. I see another mistake. This is the back of the vehicle. So this is the vehicle facing forward, and I put my steer link on the wrong side. Or this is actually my left-hand side, so I need to flip it over. Alright, there we go. So what I was saying earlier about kind of matching that rod end to the caster, you can kind of see the caster of the arm. Let's make sure that, and how you want basically that rod end to be perpendicular to that screw going through there. Tighten that up a little bit. So we would want to kind of try to rotate this, which is going to be hard now because it's installed. Maybe we can get enough grip on it with this guy. Kind of tweak it so that it is square. There. So we're square to our kingpin, basically. This shaft that goes through the upright is considered a kingpin, or actually, I guess, yeah, your kingpin angle would be the axis between that ball and that ball. But you want that rod kind of perpendicular to that, or the rod end perpendicular to that. So this is one side. Let's get the other side done. Okay, we'll go ahead and try to square that up again, like we did on the other side, with our non-marring pliers. Okay, that looks good. So our front end is almost done. At least for its suspension part of it. Still have to do the steering, which is the next step, steering. Which is this part of the servo saver. So this is number 4 on this gray tree, 85416. Let's just make a note of that. Oh no, it does say that right here, but it's number 4. Alright. And that doesn't seem like a... Okay, never mind, sorry. So this guy goes on here like so. You got your spring. Actually, forgot the little washer. Acts as kind of like a spring race. The washer again onto the little aluminum cap. And then your screw. to hold it all together. That will be a 3mm driver. So to talk about preloading this, they say set the gap to 13mm. Okay, so let's get out our fancy caliper. So you want to set this distance here to 13, 13.7. .97, that's good. That guy's ready. So now we move on to the pivots. And this, I guess, this is our drag link. So got our little collars. Screws. We're good there. Now we're going to do the tie rods. So 2 aluminum tie rods and the rod ends for those tie rods, which are these guys here. So cut those off. We need 4 of those. Looks like we can get 3 out of 1 tree. I think we have 2 of these trees. Or no, we have 4 of these trees. Okay, we got lots of these. Alright, so I said that earlier. We got lots of spare rod ends for this kit, that's for sure. Alright, so this is where we use our handy multi-tool. So those go in there. And then we let's see here. There's a groove here which indicates left-hand thread. So pay attention to that. Okay, and our multi-tool. One of these has to be it. Sure you going. It's not even close to being straight. Oops, we're wiring up these aluminum tie rods. Okay, getting closer. They want 59mm. We're going to set our, see if they set this to 59. Does that look like the picture? Nope. The picture is not to scale, so use some calipers. 59 here is going to look like that, so I'll go in a little more. See if we're looking good there. That looks pretty good for now. Maybe a little bit more. I don't like that I'm dinging up this thing, so I'm gonna get a different wrench. All right. So what can we do now? Now we take this guy here. We're gonna install the next one backwards. It's reverse thread. The hardest part of this is getting it started. These are not tapped, and they're big threads going into relatively tough plastics. So you need to be able to kind of apply a force to it, or pressure, no, force, I guess is the right term, while screwing it to get it started. And I'm struggling. There we go. Okay, got it started. Yeah, so don't use the tool, since these are aluminum and this doesn't have very much contact area, it'll ding up your rod, tie rod. So if you can, just use a regular crescent wrench for that. If you don't want to ding up your tie rod. Yeah, go ahead and balance it as much as I can. And we're at 59 approximately, within a hair, literally. Let's just get these so they're parallel. So, alright, one, not quite parallel. Okay, that feels good. Do the next one. So yeah, get it started without the tool. It's much easier, and then throw on a wrench and spin it on. And you basically want to go till you have maybe 3 threads left, 2.5 threads. Then you do the other side. 59 on the money. It's almost like I know what I'm doing. There we go. Alright, those just get squeezed on with the clamps, or not with the clamps, with the slip jaw pliers. There we go. We lost our pivots, or yeah, our axles. Okay, and that is that. So we got that steering assembly and our front end are done. And then what? Okay, we can do that. They're telling us to install this into here. This is the other end of the pivots. So we can go and put that in there, like so. Alright, so now that we got this guy installed, let's go ahead and let's go ahead and pop these on here using the same method. So okay, and we're done with the front end. Well, mostly done. Still have to do the shocks. There's our steering brake, and then we'll get into the next section where we install the servo. This is where we start jumping around the manual. To page 60 we go for the battery box, servo installation to the battery box, receiver installation, speed controller. Yeah, so I think we'll do that in the next video. But thanks a lot for hanging in there. I hope this video is helpful. If you have any comments or questions, comment below. And thanks again for watching.